Hello, this is Patrick at OneCNC West, and what we're going to do in this training video is start to take a look at creating geometry using coordinate input. Now, in our last video, we looked at the main mechanism behind creating geometry. That's where we can grid snap or entity or datum snap. But in this video, we're going to focus on absolute coordinate input. So if I head over to the main menu and select point, and from the submenu we'll just use the default, you'll notice that there's three fields here. There's X coord, Y coord, and Z coord. This is where you put your coordinate data in. Same holds true for lines and arcs as well. If I select the line tool from the main menu, again you'll see X coord, Y coord, and Z coord, and same for arcs. There's your X coord, Y coord, and Z coord. Let's start with points. Alright, so let's say I want to create a point using the X and Y values here. We're going to come over here and type in 1 for X, and how about 1 for Y. Now as I type in these values, a couple things happen. First off, you'll notice that over here within the main drawing area, OneCNC is showing us exactly where that geometry is going to be created. So as I type in different values here, you'll see this hop around. So let's change this to 2. You can see it move there, and I'll change that to 2. Okay? You'll also notice too that these fields turn green. Now the green field actually signifies two things. It first signifies that you've changed the value inside this field, and it also tells us that we have not yet created the geometry. To create lines, points, and arcs within OneCNC using coordinate input, you must click the OK button to actually create it. So if I click OK, and if I take my cursor over here and just move it just a little bit, you can see there is the point that was just created. Let's make another point now at how about X minus 2. So I'll type in minus 2. I'm going to use that same Y value, so I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm just going to click OK. I'm just going to carry on here. Let's make this minus 2. I'll click OK. And how about back up here to 2 inches for X, and I'll click OK. So there you go. There's the 4 points created exactly at that coordinate data. Now what's nice is the lines and arcs work exactly the same way. Let's take a look at arcs. Let's make the diameter a little bigger. How about 375? And for our coordinate data, I'm going to type in 0.75 for X, 0.75 for Y, and then I'm going to click OK. And I'll just repeat what I did before just to give you an idea that it works exactly the same. Let's change our Y now to minus 0.75. That looks good. We'll click OK to that, and we'll come back up here and make this 0.75 and click OK. Alright, so when creating points, lines, and arcs, just make sure you type in your information here and then click the OK button. Now it is a 3D environment, so you certainly can use the Z value. Let's put this back to X0, Y0, but let's make the Z, how about 1 inch. That looks good. I'll click OK to that, and then as I rotate around, you can see that certainly there's that point that's been created at X0, Y0, Z of 1 inch. Very, very good. Alright, let's take a look at creating lines. It's going to work exactly the same way now. Let's just make a square around this whole thing. We'll use 2 inches for our value, so I'm going to type in 2 and 2. That looks good. Now we're going to go to X minus 2. We'll click OK. And the main thing really is just remembering to click the OK button once you're done there. I'm going to say 2. We're going to click OK. Now at this point, if I want to finish the square up, I can certainly come up here and type in Y of 2 inches to make it complete the square, or I can just take my cursor over and left-hand mouse click, and when I'm done I can right-click. So when you're using coordinate input, you're not locked in. You can always switch back and forth between coordinate input, grid snapping, datum snapping, or entity snapping. It really makes no difference. Let's demonstrate that one more time, and then we'll wrap this video up. I'm going to start my new line at, let's say, X 3 inches and Y of 3 inches. That looks good. And I'm going to click OK. Now we're going to go to X minus 3. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to take the line and join it here. So I'm going to left click. I'm done with that, so I'm going to right hand mouse click. Now for my new line, I'm going to come down here and left click that. Now I want to use coordinate input, so I just move over here and start to type in the information. We're going to go minus 3 for X, and we're going to minus 3 for Y. When we're done with that, we're going to click OK. Now we want to go all the way to X3. That looks good. I'll click OK. Now I'm simply going to move my cursor over here and left-hand mouse click. I'm finished with this line, so I'm going to right click, and now I simply want to just join these two lines together, so I'm going to left click and left click, and then right click when we're finished. So there you go. You can combine your coordinate input with grid snapping, with entity snapping, or with datum snapping. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video.